What's good, folks? If you don't know, my name is Sean, but I generally go by Session. If you're watching this, you may or may not have seen this animation here. If you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anything like that. I asked a few people if I should do like a tutorial breakdown on this, and I got a few replies saying yes, so here we are. So, first things first, we're gonna jump from here into Blender. Now, the first thing I have to get you to understand, if you've never looked at like behind the scenes of movies, TV shows, or anything like that, and generally how these things are made, uh, a lot of times what you see in camera versus what's actually going on in reality are two completely different things. For example, if I were to say zoom out a little bit and step from the view of the camera, you can see this isn't actually, he's not actually chilling somewhere on a hill in a forest. This is just kind of its own little self-contained scene in space, and with a little bit of camera trickery, you can't tell the difference. So I'm gonna be showing you how to do this step by step. It's really only four pieces that kind of make up this whole scene. Five if you count the soccer ball. But that's gonna be our grass here, our tree, our character, who's also animated, and our sky background. And all of these things are free. You don't have to pay for anything. Blender, the actual program itself, is free, along with the add-ons, which I'll explain, how to get them as we go. And we're just gonna start completely fresh and go from there. So I'm gonna be completely honest. If you've never used Blender before and you're just a complete beginner, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna explain, every little detail on, how to do this and put this together. Though, if you do have questions in the comments, I will explain as best I can. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not like super, Blender user. I'm still figuring this out as I go, and I'm just passing on whatever knowledge I figure out as I learn. So, when you start fresh in Blender, this is generally what you're going to be seeing. You got your default cube, you got your camera, and you got a light scene. We're going to jump around to our rendered view. See, with our rendered view, we can actually see what you would see in camera once the animation or video is done. Um, Viewport shading. A lot of times I'm going to be hanging out in between these three scenes up here, and you can kind of see the difference between them. It's not going to be that much of a difference right now, but as we go on, you'll start to see the difference. So first things first, we're going to highlight the default cube. This is kind of a meme in itself if you've never used Blender, and we're going to delete that. We don't need it. Right now it just be in the way, and we're just gonna go from there. So first things first, we're gonna go up here. There is a shortcut for this, but to be honest, I don't always do it. But we're gonna hit add. We're gonna go to mesh and add a plane. Okay, we got our plane here. What is this plane here? This plane, this flat rectangle, is what's gonna end up being our grass and our hill. Right now it doesn't look like much, but as we go on, it's gonna start to look a little bit better. So we're also gonna be jumping around through these tabs up here, mostly from just the shading tab and the layout tab. But like I said, as we go on, we'll figure out what is what. So some of these things that I'm going to be saying, there are add-ons that you have to add to Blender in order to make it work. A lot of these things are already in the default settings. If you go to edit preferences and search for them, you can find them. Uh, but I'm not going into that right now. If it comes down to it, I'll link videos to tutorials on how to actually do all of that, but I'm not gonna go super deep into that. Now, there is one add-on that you do have to go online and find. That would be the Blender Kit add-on. If you come to your side menu, what you hit in and bring it up. What the Blender Kit mod add-on does is you can find models. It's also up here, which is, this is generally the one I use. You can find models, textures, scenes, brushes, so on and so forth. And this is where we're going to get our tree from. But we're not going to do it right now, but just so we know down the line, if you come up here to Blender Kit and hit search, and you see we got a list of trees, you know. It's locked right now because I'm using just the free version of it. Like I said, everything in this is going to be things you can do for free. If you just want to find only the free items, you can filter it out so you can, you know, look up only your free items. And it's as simple as dragging a track, grabbing one, dragging and dropping it. But we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to finish up our grass first and then go from there. I just wanted to get that out the way so it's understood once we get to the next part. So right now we're just going to focus on the plane, the grass, and start building from there. So the first things first, if you've never done this before, we're going to go to our plane, create a new texture. And this is one of those add-ons that it's in default Blender, but as of this exact moment, I can't remember the name of it. By the time I produce this video, I've added it as a subtitle or something in there, but we're just gonna go from here. So we're gonna delete this BSDF, click our material output, and hit Control T. Okay, as you see, it's black right now. What you want to do is click your folder icon right here, and what this is going to do is it's going to open up your images. So from here, what you want to do is you want to go online to Google, you know, go to Google Images, type in grass texture. What is a grass texture? You go to pictures, is it my downloads? I can't remember. Desktop. Yep, there we go. Green grass texture. What is a green grass texture? Well, it's just a picture of some grass. I know it doesn't look too exciting right now, but you know, as we piece it together, it's gonna start to look a little bit better. So right now, I got my texture. We're gonna head back to our layout screen, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a modifier to this. I'm gonna add a tutorial on how to do this because I literally learned how to do this just from watching a tutorial, and that's what led to me making the you know, whole video as far as the animation. And okay, so we're gonna go from emitter. We don't want an emitter, we want hair. We're gonna change our hair length down to like 0.1. We're gonna add a whole bunch, something like, I don't know, 30,000. Okay, and now we got some grass. Of course, it's not grass yet, so we want to change our settings from advanced to advanced, and we go down to our physics, and in our physics you're gonna change your Brownian to like 0.1, and oh, that's 2. You know, that's some wild grass that you go out in the forest and see. That's a little too high, so we're gonna 0.01, and maybe it could be a little bit more, 0.02. It's looking grassier. Yeah, that's some solid, decent grass. We got grass here. So we have our grass plane. You know, I can hit S, scale it up, and obviously we got grass, but I don't want to do that. I want to kind of keep my quality as high as possible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this grass plane that I just created. I'm gonna hit Alt D. We're gonna move that over. You hit if you hit X, Y, or Z, you would move on the X, Y, or Z axis. I just want to move this on the X axis down a little bit. You know, down there. Now we got 2 planes of grass. Okay, so a cool little trick I learned is rather than doing this one by one, you just highlight both of them, hit Alt D it in. Now we're gonna move on the Y axis. Now we got 4. And you just kind of want to repeat this process a few times. There we go. Now we got our grass patch. Now, just to make this simple, I could leave all of this separate. We got all of these planes here, but to be honest, I like to keep things simple and straightforward whenever I'm doing these things. So what I have a tendency to do is highlight all of them, right click, and hold up, I think we have something selected that's not supposed to be. I'll just do it on this side panel and hold shift, highlight all of them, and we're gonna join them. You can hit Control J, that's a shortcut for it, but a lot of times I like to just show it. So now rather than 15, 16 different planes, this is now one solid piece. So now I can move it as one solid piece. Before we get too far, you want to subdivide it. If you don't know what a subdivision is, basically, we have this one plane separated into 16. If we go into edit mode up here, as you can see, it's still our 16 different planes. But when we go to edit, say if I want to make this hill that we're going to be making in a moment, it's only going to move as the planes, and that doesn't look too natural. So what we want to do is subdivide, subdivide, subdivide. I think that's decent enough for now, and we're gonna do what's called proportional editing. Hold up, and go back to object mode. Just move this down a little bit so I can just kind of do a dead center, or at least as close to dead center as possible. Now we're gonna do it. Okay, editing. You click your proportional editing. We're gonna select vertice, that one in the center. If you press G and Z, as you see, we're getting our hill here. Now, obviously, that's not really what we want our hill to look like, so I'm gonna increase my selection space or time, G, and increase our G, Z, move it up a bit. Well, that's obviously way too high. Let's move it down. Move it down a bit, and here we have our hill. We're a fourth of the way there. We're gonna shade smooth. Obviously, it's not completely perfect, but we're not looking for perfect right now. So we have our hill, we have our grass. Where's my camera? I'm gonna jump into my camera view real quick, and as you can kind of see, we have our hill being formed. Obviously, there are some gaps here and there, which weren't there the first time I did this, but we're figuring it out as we go. So another thing, if you come over here, we have all of our different properties. If you come up world, come down to this orange square, we have our transform tab. We can move our camera around, our rotation, so on and so forth. So right now I'm gonna kind of place our camera just so we can start getting the general idea of the direction we want it to be looking. It's kind of lower looking good. And we're gonna go from there. It's kind of a decent angle. It's not exactly the same, but you know, we're not trying to do exactly the same. So uh that being said, our grass is made. Let's go back to that tree that we were talking about earlier. So click this little eyedropper up there. I wanna scroll through our options of trees till we find one that kind of looks about what we're looking for. To be honest, this I want to say this is the one I use. I could be wrong, but I'm just gonna drag that, drop it right here, give it a second, wait for it to download, and we got a tree. You know, our tree is here. So we're gonna do the same thing with this tree that we did with our camera, and just kind of place it about where it needs to be in the scene. But if you look, it's like, well, it's kind of small. Well, we can scale it up. See, easy as pie. So we're two out of four down. All right, so next things up, we wanna I'm gonna add the sky texture this time because the character model, that's gonna be a whole nother process, and I'm gonna have to stop recording in Blender and go through all of that. And I feel like this is just gonna save me a little bit of time. So I'm gonna file and import, and this is another one of those things where uh, your add-on has to be installed. It's already there by default, and really I believe it should be turned on by default, but you know, you have to kind of turn it on. But you just go to your preferences, your add-ons, and search for images as planes, turn that on, and once that's done, we're gonna go to import images as planes. We're gonna search for our sky picture. What you do, you just go online, find a picture of the sky, some clouds, anything like that that you feel would fit in your scene, and import it. You can't really see it right now because it's below our whole little setup, but we're gonna fix that. So first things first, let's kind of bring it up. We're gonna place it in the scene. If it looks a little dark right now, we're gonna fix that. Right now I'm just gonna focus on just kind of getting it about where I need it to be. All right, so we got our tree, we got our plane, we got our clouds. We're most of the way there. So to fix the sky texture looking so dark, what we're gonna do is go in the shading tab. We're gonna go down here to where it says emission. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this node right here, just kind of bring it down, and you see this color node right here. You're just gonna attach that to your emission. So when you go back to your layout, oh, look at that. And what that does, if you don't know what an emission is, it basically just says that whatever that node is, it emits light. So yeah. So back to our view, you see we can kind of see our cracks in our planes. I'm starting to wonder, why is that doing that? Because I was not doing that the last time I did this. I'm trying to remember if there's something I did differently. Just trying to fix this. You know, this is also a big part of whenever you're doing something, troubleshooting. You gotta be able to troubleshoot and figure out why things are going wrong or not quite looking right. If I had to guess, when I joined all of these planes together, one of them was probably not completely on top of each other. There probably were gaps in between them. And when I joined them all together, that gap was still left there. I wonder if there's, I know what to do. So I'm just gonna duplicate that, rotate on the z-axis. Just kind of block off some of those. Yeah, I'm not gonna recreate that whole thing. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm too lazy for all that. So yeah, it looks a lot better now. We don't have any major gaps. And when you go in your camera view, you can't see it anyway. So let's turn our tree back on. Move that down a little bit. Okay, next up you want to add your HDRI. It kind of makes everything look a little bit more natural. Try that one. And we want to add a sunlight. Light, sun. As you see, we have our sun here at the bottom. Go down to our light properties. I generally just have the strength at around 10. It's not too strong, not too light. Now, if you're wondering why doesn't it look quite like it did in the last one, well, if you've never been in Blender, you have two different render forms. You have Eevee and Cycles, and as of right now, I'm in Eevee. If we have all of our effects turned off, and we're gonna jump into Cycles. So with this next part, I'm gonna have to jump out of Blender. We're gonna go online to whatever your preferred internet browser is, Safari, Chrome, it really doesn't matter, but we'll hop back to Blender in a second. Okay, we're back. So if you can't tell, we're on a website called Mixamo. And what Mixamo is, they provide free character models and animations that you can use for your projects. As you can see clearly here, we have our guy from the animation. He's just kind of standing there T-posing for dominance on you. But if I click an animation here, as you can see, he starts moving. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna search for a sitting animation, and we're just gonna go through these until we find one that we're kind of comfortable with. This was actually one of the ones I considered using. Matter of fact, not considered, this is the exact one I used. And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna download. You're gonna download it as a FBX with skin, and you want to set your frames per second to whatever you want your final animation or project to be. I personally just use 24 frames per second for this one, and you're gonna download it. And once you downloaded it, we're gonna jump back over to Blender. And what we're gonna do in Blender is you're gonna go to File, Import, FBX, and we're gonna find that download. Let's see, our sitting idle, and we're gonna import them. Wait a second for them to load up. So if you can't tell, he's in here. He's just kind of below the tree, but yeah, we don't need him right there, so we're gonna make sure armature is selected, go to our position properties, and we're just gonna bring them up, rotate them. 1 second. There we go. Okay, there we go. We're gonna rotate him so that he's properly placed. Yeah, I don't have the strongest GPU and all of that, so some of these things are gonna move a little slow for me. If you do have a better system, it might be a little bit easier for you, but you know, hey, we all kind of work with what we got. Alright, so he's kind of floating off the ground right now. Let's kind of bring him down. Bring him over so he appears to be leaning on the tree. Still kind of looking a little floaty. Jump to our camera view to see about how that looks. Not too bad, not too bad. So at this point, we pretty much have our animation set and ready to go. Obviously, we don't want our guy to be see-through, and if you ever download a character from Blender, I mean Mixamo or something like that, and you find that your character is see-through, a quick way to fix that is you just go down to your materials properties tab, gonna scroll down, and you see that back face. We're gonna turn that off, and as you see, yeah, our guy's not see-through anymore. So the final part of doing this is we have to animate our camera. Why is my camera view tripping? There we go. So we're just gonna go up here, and a quick way that I like to do it just to save myself time, I have a lot of add-ons over here. This panel shows up and disappears if you press N on your keyboard, and if you go up to the view tab, you can't really see that it says view because I got so many fucking add-ons, excuse my language. And we can set our camera to lock to certain things. So what I'm going to do is lock this to the armature, which is our character, and I can choose which bone. I like to do it to the neck or the hips or something like that. And we're going to lock our camera to view. So with that being said, anytime I move my viewport around, my camera's going to move with it, and I don't have to worry about losing track of my character or anything like that, because right now it's locked to his neck bone. So we're gonna go down to our timeline down here. We're gonna go to our camera. As you see, these are all of our parameters over here, and we're gonna just add a whole bunch of keyframes. So, you know, right now, this is our first frame. We're gonna jump like 5 seconds in the future if you're moving at 24 frames per second, and we're just gonna rotate. You don't want to rotate too far, obviously, because, you know, that orange line that you see right there. Oh, wait, let's save myself trouble. This orange line that you see right here marks the end of what our camera sees, so you don't want to go too far if you're doing it similar to what I do. So we're just gonna go a few seconds, add a keyframe, and to be honest, the original version of this, I just had it looping back and forth, but when it came time to render, I really only rendered up to frame 120, and that was all I needed. And when I threw it into After Effects, I just reversed the video, put that at the end, and just had it looping back and forth. So with that being said, let's turn this off, jump back to our first frame, and we got our animation. I know there were a few hiccups here and there. This is kind of my first real tutorial video. You know, if you kind of want to just see the full version, let me turn off all of these so we can see naturally what everything would look like. You know, There are still a few things here and there that can be done to make it look a bit more realistic as far as shadows and lighting and all of that. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna go through all of that as of this exact moment. I just kind of wanted to show, hey, if you know what you're doing or you're willing to put in the time and effort, you can make some pretty cool things pretty easily. It just kind of takes a little bit of trial and error. Like I said, I'm not no super expert in this. I'm still learning as I go. This whole idea literally started from me just watching a tutorial on how to make grass. And the idea just sprung in my head. I was like, well, let's throw a tree in there. Let's throw a sky in there. I placed a guy in there, and all of a sudden we got a scene, we got an animation. So, with that being said, you would come up here. You would set your render settings. Okay, it's finished up. Give me a second while I switch this over in OBS Studio. And here's our finished product. Lighting wise, like I said, there's a few things we could do to improve that. For one, you'd want to add in your own kind of custom HDRI. You can fix your sun light or whatever, whatever you choose to do. It's really kind of up to you how you want your final product to look at the end of the day. I just threw this out there because I'm just kind of like trying to pass on the knowledge that I've learned as I, grow. And hopefully, you guys, if you want, this is something you're interested in, you can take what it is I've learned and pass it on to the next person. So, transition back over to Blender, and here we are. So ultimately, if you want to render out your whole animation, what you're going to do is you come down here to your output, you choose whatever folder you want it to go to. For example, let's say column or whatever. I obviously have a animation already in here. You set your resolution, your frame range, you come up here to render and render animation, and let it rip from there. And once you're done, you would throw it into something like After Effects, Krita, DaVinci Resolve, or whatever your preferred video editing program is, and string the images together, and it becomes a animation. So I personally chose to do it in After Effects, and I'm about to jump over to that to just kind of show you the process of how it looks, what it looks like, and so on and so forth. And alright, so here in After Effects, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do a new composition from footage. You're gonna go to your folder where you have rendered out all of your frames. I only rendered up to 145, that's like 5 or 6 seconds. Make sure that the PNG sequence is selected and import. Now, if you're anything like me, I tend to do my projects at 24 frames per second, but whenever you import them into After Effects, for some reason After Effects is always gonna interpolate it to 30 frames per second. So the way to fix this is you right click and you're gonna go to interpret main. You're gonna change that from 30 to 24. Click OK, but we're not done yet. You also gotta go to your composition. 1 second. Composition settings, and also make sure that is at 24. So now, having done that, also let me shrink this down to 1080 just so things are a little bit easier. I said I rendered it out at 1920 by 1080. I mean, I rendered it out at, oh wow. 1 second. I rendered the photos out at 1920. I mean at 4K. But generally when I do my videos and everything like that, I do them at 1080p just to kind of keep everything consistent and all of that. Run a fit to comp and hold up. As soon as it's give us, I still have render running, Blender running. So that's probably a big part of why I'm kind of chugging along. So, at this point, you will just export it in whatever format you see fit. I generally like to leave it just at its basic film format, movie, MOV, and you know, once it's all said and done, you have your video. Trying to transition back over. 1 second, so we can see what our video is looking like. And yeah, once it's all said and done, rendered out, you'll have your video, you know, your animation. So I know we had a few hiccups here and there, and as I go on, I'm, you know, gonna try and improve and make sure I do this a little bit better. But yeah, that's a basic on how you do it. If you like my content, you like this tutorial, or you learned anything from this process, like, subscribe, share, you know, all that. I'll see you next time. So I just realized I may have lied a little bit as I was in the process of recording this. I said everything, all the tools used in this video are free, and for the most part they are, but the whole process of taking the frames and rendering them together as a video, I did that in After Effects, and obviously if you go to look up After Effects, it is not free. But there are free programs to do so. DaVinci Resolve, I know off the top of my head. There's a program called Krita where you can import all your frames and then export it as a video. I do believe CapCut, if I'm not mistaken, you can do so as well. It's really, like I said, just at the end of the day, up to your discretion on how you choose to do so. But I just wanted to share this with you guys and hope you enjoyed it. Just open your eyes.